Does the average American really care what happens to Attorney General Alberto Gonzales? Here's what you need to know about public opinion and Attorney General Alberto Gonzales and the firing of the 8 U.S. attorneys around the country. First of all, Americans don't think very highly of the way Attorney General Gonzales is handling his job. However, when it comes to the issue of whether or not he should resign or leave office, no overwhelming majority clamoring for him to leave. In fact, the public breaks about even on that issue. That's primarily, we think, because a lot of Americans don't think it's that important a story. In fact, by our measures, a lot fewer Americans are following this story than following, for example, the firing of radio host Don Imus. Let's look at that last point in particular. How closely are you following these two news stories? The data show for the Alberto Gonzales case, that is the Justice Department's firing of the U.S. attorneys, 53% following it closely. Contrast that to the Don Imus story, 72% following that closely. The average for all the stories that we here at Gallup have measured in terms of attention being paid to them over the last decade and a half, 60%. So we can say that the Gonzales U.S. attorney's firing story simply isn't generating all that much interest. Job approval rating for Alberto Gonzales as Attorney General, pretty poor. 25% approve, 48% disapprove. The rest have no opinion. But this tepid job approval rating does not lead to a strong majority saying that Gonzales should go, should resign, or be fired. There is a partisan break here. After all, Gonzales is a Republican appointed by George W. Bush, for whom Gonzales used to work back in Texas. 21% of Republicans say Gonzales should resign. That jumps to 40% among independents and a majority of 60% among Democrats. When we look at all of these data taken together, I think the most important thing for you to know is that this simply is not a high salient story for many Americans, and as a result, perhaps, we get no strong sentiment out there, no strong majority sentiment for Gonzales resigning or otherwise leaving office. Tomorrow on the Daily Briefing, as January 2008 creeps closer and closer, we'll update you on the latest on what Americans are thinking about the presidential candidates. I'm Frank Newport, Editor-in-Chief of the Gallup Poll with Democracy on Demand. Take the Daily Briefing with you. Search for Gallup at the iTunes Music Store.